Welcome to Life Lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we continue with our discussions on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Specifically, we will be discussing the story of Paundraka. Paundraka, he thought himself to be God. And we'll see what the effects of such a delusion were. So before we start, I'll just chant some prayers, glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam as we await the arrival of our community. Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 4. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead. Narayana, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 17. Shridvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Hyabadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Supersoul, in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text 18. Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utama sloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Text, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 40. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreya Shaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swastyayanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. I'll chant one more verse. Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 41. Tad idam grahayam asha sutam atmatvatam varam sarva veditaha sanam saram saram samudritam. Srila Vyasadeva delivered it to his son, who is the most respected among the self-realized, after extracting the cream of all Vedic literatures and histories of the universe. Welcome, everyone, to Life Lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam. Each week, twice a week, we hold these sessions and we discuss a portion of the Bhagavatam and then just reflect on lessons that we can take from it for our own spiritual growth and upliftment, edification. So, before I start, just let me honor some of you who have arrived. We have Harinam Dai Sindhuji joining us from Sydney, Australia. Harinam says, Hari, Hari, thank you for being here. Harinam Dai Sindhu. We have Shama Manjari says, Jaya Shri Ram, Sri Prahlada Prabhuji, and all devotees. Shama Manjari is in the mood. Right now in India, there is the inauguration of the Ram Janmabhoomi temple. There's a lot of excitement with the establishment of that, the Pran Pratishta for those deities that was held today. Janava Mata, in a similar mood, says, Victory to Ram, King of the world, Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Yeah, the excitement is palpable. Viren is with us as well. Viren says, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you, Viren. And then here's Maturnath. Maturnath joining from Warsaw says, Hari Bol. Greetings from Warsaw. Thank you so much for being with us, Maturnath Ji. So, Matura, today must be a very auspicious day astrologically, because it was chosen as the day for, or yesterday, for the inauguration of this Ram Janmabhoomi temple in Ayodhya. We see on the chat lots of enthusiasm and excitement about this event. I was considering whether to speak about Ram or to stay with our topic of progressively going through the Bhagavatam. I decided on the latter, but it was a difficult decision to make. All right, let's dive into our topic and for today then. Welcome everyone once again to Life Lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are discussing Krishna's chastisement of Paundraka. So we've titled this talk, Wanting to be God, the story of Paundraka, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 66. There's a great story that Giriraj Maharaj tells related to his first meeting with Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was giving a talk at Harvard University, and at the end, Giriraj Maharaj raised his hand to ask a question. And Prabhupada didn't answer his question. Prabhupada instead, didn't answer the question that he voiced. Rather, he went to something deeper. He looked at Giriraj Maharaj and said, first, you must understand that you are not God. So before addressing the ostensive question that Giriraj Maharaj asked, Prabhupada said, you have to understand philosophically that you are not God. Giriraj Maharaj's mind immediately went to his apartment where above the mirror in the bathroom he had written, you are God. So we might find this humorous, this idea of thinking that we are God, but the desire to dominate and control and be served and loved by others, in other words, to be God, is very, very deeply rooted in our conditioning as souls within this material world. Some people have a philosophy to justify or acknowledge this misconception. For others, it remains maybe even unconscious or at least unspoken. So today we can explore this topic within the context of Krishna's pastime of chastising Paundraka. We are discussing once again Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 66. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We will discuss this under three headings. The first, Paundraka's challenge, verses 1 to 9 of this 66th chapter of the 10th canto. Second topic, Krishna accepts the challenge, verses 10 to 26. And third, Sudakshina's revenge sacrifice, verses 27 to 43. We begin with Paundraka's challenge. In our last class, we were discussing Balaram's visit to Vrindavan. And so Sukadev Goswami, he gives us a link to that pastime of Balaram's visit to Vrindavan, chapter 65 of the 10th canto. He says, while Balaram was in Vrindavan, this is what happened in Mathura. In fact, if we are to look at the Bhagavatam more broadly, which we do during this series, we have now entered into a different phase of Sukadeva Goswami's description of the Dwarka pastimes. Up until Balaram's visit to Vrindavan, we were discussing Krishna's family, his marriages, his sons, his grandsons. And then from Balaram's visit to Vrindavan, the last chapter, chapter 65, through now to 68, so 5, 6, 7, 3 chapters, we have Balaram's pastimes, directly or indirectly. Now it's while Balaram is in Vrindavan, the next chapter will more directly involve Balaram again. So Sukadeva Goswami says, while Balaram was in Vrindavan, a king named Paundraka, who was encouraged by the flattery of some fools, he announced that he was the real Vasudeva. And so he's a king, he's the king of Karusha. He sent a messenger to Krishna in Dvarka, and the messenger arrived and found Krishna in his royal assembly and relayed this message to the Supreme Lord. The message was as follows: I, Paundraka, are the one and only Lord Vasudeva. There is no other. It is I who have descended into this world to show mercy to the living beings. Therefore, give up your false name and also give up my personal symbols, which out of foolishness you now carry, and come to me and take shelter. If you don't, then you must give me battle. So, what an arrogant message. When Ugrasen Maharaj, who was the king of the Yarus and the other members of the royal assembly, heard this foolish boast from Paundraka, they found it most humorous and laughed heartily. Krishna, he gave a return message to be delivered to Paundraka. Krishna addressed Paundraka saying, "You fool, I will force you to give up the so-called Sudarshan disc and other divine symbols of mine that you have dared to carry. And when you lie down on the battlefield, you will come to the shelter of dogs." Prabhupada used to make this wordplay, G-O-D versus D-O-G. He says you would serve God, or if you don't serve God, then you are serving dog. And so we see here's a Shastric basis for that play. Krishna's telling our Paundraka. Paundraka said, "You come and take shelter of me. I am God." And Krishna says, "No, I'll meet you on the battlefield and you will take shelter of dog." Krishna then mounted his chariot and he went to the vicinity of Kashi. Why has he gone to Kashi? We heard that Paundraka was the king of Karusha. Why has he gone to Kashi? Because he was in fact staying in Kashi, where he had a foolish follower. And this foolish follower was the king of Kashi, Kashiraj. And so Krishna, he went to Kashi to meet Paundraka. We can pause here and we can reflect while we might laugh at Paundraka's arrogance. He is daring to challenge Krishna and declare himself to be the real Vasudeva, the real Supreme Personality of Godhead. And again, while we might find this funny, it also reflects the ego of every conditioned soul, wanting to take the position of the Supreme Enjoyer. And so there is a lesson for us here, to look at Paundraka and see our own reflection, the need for us to purify our false ego of wanting to be the Supreme Enjoyer, and to recognize our true position as Krishna's devotee. Jivara Svarupahoy Krishna Nityadas. The eternal position of the soul is as Krishna's dasa, Krishna's servant. There's also a lesson here in relation to Kashiraj, the king of Kashi. He is following a false god. He's following a false guru. And so we will see the fate that he meets in this false shelter, this false refuge that he has taken. That's also a warning to us. Be careful of false idols. Somehow, this Kashiraj, the king of such a great, exalted city, he was bewildered by the false glory of Paundraka, and he decided to follow him rather than Krishna, who was present on earth performing his pastimes in Dwaraka. Our second topic, Krishna accepts the challenge. So verses 10 to 26, Krishna left Dwarka with his army, and Paundraka, seeing Krishna in the vicinity of the city preparing for battle, came out of Kashi to confront Krishna with his army. He was followed by his friend Kashiraj, who was leading the rear guard. And Krishna saw a very pitiable scene. Paundraka was carrying replicas of his own insignia. He had a conch shell, he had false arms, additional 2 false arms in which he had an imitation disc. He was also carrying Krishna's club and an imitation sharanga bow. And he also had a fake Srivatsa, that is the golden hair or golden line that Krishna has on his chest, indicating where the goddess Lakshmi resides eternally. It didn't end there. He was wearing a mock Kastuba jewel, a specific jewel that Krishna wears. And then what else? What other paraphernalia does Krishna have? In every description, there are some specific characteristics. When we see those characteristics described, we understand this is a description of Krishna. He was wearing a garland of forest flowers, and he was wearing yellow silken garments. So most delusional. He had a God delusion. Not only that, he was riding a chariot that had a flag. And what is the insignia of Krishna's flag? It is the mark of Garuda. And so this Paundraka, he had the Garuda symbol on his flag as well. He wore a crown, and as Krishna wears shark-shaped earrings, Makara Kundala, so this Paundraka, he was also wearing shark-shaped earrings. When Krishna saw this character, he could not restrain himself from laughter. He saw how the king had dressed up in an exact imitation of his own appearance. He led an army along with Kashiraj with many elephants and chariots and cavalry, and they all attacked Krishna with tridents and clubs and pikes and barbed darts and swords and axes and arrows. And Krishna, he fiercely struck back with his sword, with his club, Kaumadaki, with his Sudarshan disc, and with his Sharanga bow. He fired many arrows. And so Krishna, he destroyed the armies of Paundraka and Kashiraj. And as he destroyed these armies, Krishna turned his attention directly to Paundraka, and he said, Paundraka, those weapons that you spoke about through your messenger, now I will release them to you. Here, take my club, take my arrows, and more significantly, you can take my Sudarshan. I will also, in the process, as you receive my weapons, you can renounce my name, Vasudev, which you have falsely assumed. And so with that, Krishna, he destroyed Paundraka's chariot with his arrows, and then with Sudarshan, he cut off Paundraka's head. Next, Krishna turned his attention to Paundraka's follower, Kasiraj, king of Kashi. And with Sudarshan, he beheaded this king and returned to Dwaraka. What happened to Paundraka? It's not all terrible. It's not all sad. In fact, as we find in other places in the Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, in the killing of Shishupal, Sukadeva Goswami tells us that because Paundraka had constantly been meditating on Krishna, even dressing like Krishna, he was gradually purified. And so once Krishna severed his head with Sudarshan Chakra, his purification was complete and he achieved liberation. Meanwhile, Kashiraja's head flew into the city and landed there in the central area, central courtyard, where the people looked upon it with its earrings and wondered, who is that? And as they inspected closer, they saw that it was the king. And the queens of Kashiraj and his sons and other relatives, they saw it, the citizens saw it, and they all lamented. So we can pause here for some instructions, for some lessons. What is this idea of confronting illusion? Paundraka is confronted by Krishna, and this is where his illusion is checked by meeting Krishna. And this is inevitable for every conditioned soul. We have these illusions of who we think we are, as opposed to who we truly are. And at some point, we must face that reality. It is important, it is necessary for our spiritual growth. And so Krishna chastises Paundraka. He also benefits him with a divine correction. And so in these divine corrections, there is also great benefit. The soul is guided back to the right path. The other important message for us here is the power of thinking about Krishna, a point made throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. By hearing about, remembering, and glorifying Krishna, our heart is purified. And so even thinking about Krishna in envy can have that effect, indicating to us the transformative power of sincere hearing, remembering, and glorifying of Krishna. It tells us that genuine devotion and focus on Krishna will purify our hearts and lead to the awakening of pure devotion within our hearts. We must have that faith and confidence. This is the process that we are given. It is the path that we are on. It is the path that is emphasized throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's go to our third section, Sudakshina's revenge sacrifice, verses 27 to 43. So where we left off with the last section, Sudakshina, the Kashiraja's relatives, they were lamenting. And so his eldest son was named Sudakshina. He wanted revenge after his father's death. He had assumed the throne and he invested resources of that position in performing worship of Lord Shiva with the intention of destroying his father's killer. Lord Shiva, he was gratified by Sudakshina's worship and offered him a choice of benedictions. What would you like? And Sudakshina asked for the means to kill the one who had slain his father. And so Shiva advised him to worship Dakshina Agni with some black magic ritual, which Sudakshina did with the help of priests. As a result of their sacrifice and worship of Dakshina Agni, that's the southern Agni, a fearsome demon with a fiery body appeared from the pit of the sacrificial fire. He was carrying a trident and at once set off for Dwarka. And as he approached Dwarka, Krishna's capital, the citizens were feeling more and more heat. They were feeling the effects of this fiery demon approaching the city. Krishna assured them of protection, and he dispatched Sudarshana to oppose this magical creation. And Sudarshana was over to overpower the fiery demon produced by black magic. And so the demon turned around and retreated, returning to whence he had come, which was, what was it? Kashi or Varanasi. They're the same place. Kashi, Varanasi, they're the two names for the same city. He entered the city, and once released, this demon had to have a victim. And if Krishna wasn't to be that victim, then the victim would be those that had produced it. And so this fire demon entered the city of Varanasi and found Sudakshina and his priests and burned them to death. Meanwhile, this fiery demon was being chased by Sudarshana, who also entered the city of Kashi or Varanasi and burned the entire city to the ground before returning to Dwarka. So very drastic. Sukadeva Goswami has a blessing for us at the end of this pastime. He says, anyone who recounts this heroic pastime of Krishna, or who simply hears it attentively, will be freed from all sins. So there's a blessing for all of us who are present for this discussion. We will be freed from all sins. We can reflect on this section more deeply. We see the karmic consequences of vengeance or wrong intentions. Sudakshina wants revenge, and he takes the support of priests, but there is a negative reaction. It turns around and comes back to bite him, so to speak. Not just him, but all his followers as well, his priests and the entire city of Varanasi. So this is a stark reminder for all of us of the karmic consequences associated with evil intentions and actions. Negative actions lead to negative outcomes, an important principle of the Bhagavatam and other Vedic texts. So the lesson here is to be mindful of harboring grudges or seeking revenge. It can come back to us. It will come back and harm us. And so we need to think twice if that's the path that we want to take. Otherwise, we advise to take the path of forgiveness and compassion and self-discipline, self-constraint. We can also reflect on this idea of the consequences of using black magic or dark magic for harmful purposes. This dark magic is overcome by Sudarshana. So this is also symbolic of the triumph of light over darkness. Sudarshana also represents divine power of knowledge. So light and illumination. Sudarshana is also time and wisdom, knowledge, power, spiritual power, which cuts through ignorance and cuts through delusion or illusion. So wisdom can cut through illusion. Also time, when we look back on a thing, we can have a bigger picture, perspective, and see things more clearly. And so Sudarshana not just symbolizes, personifies knowledge, illumination, time as well. And so from it, we can learn the importance of seeking clarity and wisdom, the importance of doing so by taking shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra to cut through our illusions or delusions of being God, and taking negative paths of retribution and revenge, which have no good effects in the longer term. So let's conclude then with a prayer. Beloved Krishna, in Paundraka's audacious claim to divinity, we discern reflections of our own egos, longing to usurp the throne of supreme enjoyment. Teach us the sanctity of humility, the art of purifying false selves, and the wisdom to recognize our eternal servitude to you. Your divine chastisement of Paundraka, O Krishna, reminds us that challenges are sacred interventions guiding our souls back to the righteous path. In Paundraka's liberation through envy-laden meditation, we uncover the alchemy of devotion, transformative, purifying, leading to the awakening of pure love. Sudakshina's tale unfurls cautionary scrolls, illustrating the karmic repercussions of vengeance. Like a cosmic mirror, it reflects the shadows cast by wrong intentions, urging us to be mindful of the seeds we sow. The triumph of your Sudarshana disc over dark forces resonates as a beacon, illuminating the path of goodness and righteousness. Let this symbolism guide us, Krishna, as we navigate the labyrinth of existence, seeking clarity, wisdom, and the eternal radiance of your divine light. So there we conclude. Let me honor some of you who came as I started speaking. We have with us Kirtida joining from Norway. Welcome. Thank you for being here, Kirtida. We have Sudevi and Sevadevi and Sevapuri joining us from Sydney, Australia. Great to have you with us. Thank you for joining. We didn't see Sevadevi and Sevapuri for quite some time after your pilgrimage to India, to Vrindavan and the Himalayas. Great to have you here again. Nikunja says, Hare Krishna, Sri Prahlada, Danika is here too. My greetings to both of you. Thank you both for joining, for your presence, your enthusiasm. Janamamata says, Prabhuji, is it just me being sentimental, or is this installation and worship of Lord Ram in Ayodhya a significant event in reviving Sanatana Dharma? It seems to be having a big impact worldwide, creating auspiciousness. So thank you for that question, Janavamata. Our Shastras all tell us that hearing about, remembering, glorifying Krishna, worshipping Krishna will have a powerful effect within our own hearts, within the hearts of those who are joining us in congregation, but it will also have a broader effect in purifying the world as well. So this is our teaching. And so if you are feeling that in relation to this temple, then it would be like a confirmation of what we read about and hear from the teachings of Shastra and Guru and Sadhus. So yes, we can be very enthusiastic. The holy name of Ram is being spoken far and wide. His story is being told across the world in mainstream media. With this event, there is some politicization as well. So we can be also aware that sometimes pure Dharma is also used for political purposes. That's the nature of Kali Yuga. We can focus like bees on the nectar and just appreciate the goodness. We can be saragrahi, appreciating the essence of the essential goodness in a thing. And so, yes, let us be enthusiastic and inspired. Seeing Sri Ramachandra glorified and his temple re-established. Thank you for the question, Janavamata. So Rewati is with us, says Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you here. Gopal Govinda Shyam says, Hare Krishna, Sri Prahlada Prabhu. Thank you for joining, Gopal Govinda Shyam. What a wonderful name. 3 holy names of the Lord in your name. Yvette, joining us from Sydney, says, Hari Bol. Thank you for joining, Yvette. So great to see you. Great to have you with us. Janama Mata says, thank you as always for sharing the nectar of these fascinating transcendental pastimes with all these valuable lessons. Many people ask if God is all merciful, why does he kill people, punish people, not intervene and transform them? What do you say to this? And what I say is that God does intervene and transform. And part of that, sometimes it involves killing the material body. As conditioned souls who take the body as the all in all, we might find that very confronting. But as transcendentalists, we take that as part of the purificatory process. These bodies are not permanent. These bodies are just for a short blip in time, that we have one body and then another and then another, and we've had so many in the past. And so it is all significant for one who is a materialist and sees the body as the all in all. But for one who understands the nature of the soul, the transcendental, eternal nature of the soul, then this is most insignificant. Can Krishna just purify the heart without removing the body? He can. Well, he can. Even for the great yogi, the great bhakta, will give up the body before we enter into the spiritual abode. The jivan mukta may remain within the body even in a liberated state, but that's most rare. For most, then leaving the body behind, it is not just necessary, but it is most desirable. These bodies, they grow old, they are diseased, and so the death of the body is in fact a helpful thing for the soul. Death by Krishna's hand, it is most auspicious. So Krishna's hand may be there indirectly through the material nature, but if it is there directly, being purified by Sudarshan, then that is the most glorious thing. So without the vision of eternity and without Shastra Chakshus, these things may be difficult to understand for somebody who sees things only in terms of one life and this material body. You're looking at such a small time horizon. You're looking so close, you can't see the big picture and thereby appreciate Krishna's mercy with this direct intervention here. Otherwise, Krishna is apart. So if Krishna were not personally involved and purified in this way, then Krishna's stance is as Paramatma. And Paramatma is completely neutral and just witnesses. As a judge or a justice, they're not supposed to be partial in any way. So the judge just witnesses and says, gives their judgment. And so that's Krishna's general position or general stance in relation to the soul. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanimisto matasmritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am in the heart of all living beings, giving knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness on the basis of our previously performed actions, or Brahma Samhita states it. Yastvin vagopamata vindra mohosvakarma bandhanurupa falabhajana matanoti. He is in the hearts of all living beings and endowing the fruits of their previously performed activities without fear or favor, whether it be in the case of Indra, the chief among the demigods, or Indragopa, the smallest of all living beings. So that's his general position, a neutral stance, just giving the living beings what they deserve as a consequence of previously performed karmas. If Krishna is personally intervening and killing the demon, that's actually great mercy. And you'll see with all these demons that Krishna kills. In most cases, they actually get liberated on being killed by Krishna. So finally, to why doesn't he just transform rather than kill? So I've already addressed why this isn't so important. But if it were important, in Kali Yuga, that's what he does as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Gaura Hari. And why? Because as Nityananda Prabhu explains, the souls in Kali Yuga are so sinful, so the mentality so much wanting to be God, that if Krishna, as Nityananda says, if Lord Chaitanya were to kill those with a demoniac mentality in this age of Kali, then he would have to kill everyone. And so that's no longer really a viable option. In previous age, he would kill the one demon, the one bad apple in the barrel of apples to protect the other apples. In Kali Yuga, for the most part, that demoniac mentality is there in all of us. And so he gives us a very easy process of spiritual realization and purification. And that is Harinam Sankirtan, to engage in the congregational chanting of the holy name. So thank you for that question, Janavamata. As always, Kirtina with us from Norway says, thank you for an enlightening class. Thank you for being here, Kirtina. Gorditaidas, joining us from Ukraine, reminding us to keep devotees of Ukraine in our thoughts and prayers, says Hare Krishna. Thank you for being here. Gorditai Prabhu. Janavamata says, learning from the madness of Paundraka awakens us to the realization that the only way we can see clearly is through the wisdom of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. With our own four defects of perception, we can end up in all kinds of embarrassing situations. Thank you for always sharing the light. Yeah, thank you, Janavamata. Nice reflection. Krishangi with us from Sydney says, Hare Krishna. Thanks for joining, Krishangi. Great to have you here. Shama Mandri says, thanks, Sri Prahlada Prabhu. Appreciated your time as always. Beautiful class. Thank you for joining. Shama Manjari, we're grateful for your presence. We know the extra effort that it takes for you to join these classes, so we're very grateful. Janamamata says, thank you for the great answer. One more question though. The Lord in the heart is also our best friend and ever well-wisher. Chaitya Guru, he's always helping us. Doesn't seem so neutral. Yeah, good point. Very good point. He's always available to us as a friend, should we choose. His disposition is friendly, and his availability is friendly, should we choose. But if we're not choosing to see him, as in the analogy of the two birds in the tree, then he stays as a witness, as a neutral witness. So yes, he's tried to provide guidance and opportunity. He's sending his emissaries and messengers, and he provides resources like the Vedic teachings and his incarnations, the pastimes he performs, the holy name. So yes, he's always the friend and well-wisher. Suhrinam, Suhrina Sarva Bhutanam. He's the friend and well-wisher of all living beings. But as long as we're not choosing his friendship, he's not imposing it. That's the distinction. He's providing the living beings with limited free will. That if we choose to ignore or wanting to be separate from him, independent of him, he provides that facility. He does not impose his love. He does not impose spiritual awareness on the soul. He provides opportunity for forgetfulness and a turning away, bahirmukha, that we don't see him, that instead we see the material world and we think of ourselves as the enjoyer, Bhoga Ishvarya Prashaktanam. And that's part of his friendship and well-wishing, that he provides that facility for the soul to think, for us to think ourselves independent and to try to enjoy separately. But as soon as we initiate a personal relationship, then he's immediately there to deal with us in that personal way, at a personal level, as an intimate way, not as a neutral witness, but as someone who's directly involved in our lives. The onus is on us to let him know that we are desirous of that personal relationship rather than the neutral relationship with Paramatma, with the witness. So thank you for that comment, Janamamata. Joan is with us from Mawulambar. I'm going to venture. Thank you for being here, Joan. Joan says, Hari Bol. Viren is with us and says, Prabhuji, in general, isn't feeling of revenge towards aggressor natural? How do we give it up completely? Good point, Viren. The feeling of revenge towards an aggressor is very deeply rooted within us. And we can say that it is natural. It can be overcome through purification. So the desire for revenge is tamasic and rajasic. And so how we give it up is by being more sattvic in our attitude and disposition. A sattvic response to situations is to look at things with wisdom and to look at consequences. Rajasic, we just rush in and act without looking at, without fully thinking through. Tamasic, we just rush in without looking at the consequences. Rajasic can be more calculating. But in sattvic, then we, with wisdom, we recognize what will be the consequences of revenge. Oh, we will just continue to perpetuate a cycle of negativity, and we will not really address the issues. And so let me be self-constrained here, and let me change that passion or that urge within my heart to want to cause harm to another to with the power of compassion. Let me transform it or transmute it, that energy that wants to go out of me towards this other person. Let it be transmuted from a desire to see harm and suffering to one of compassion. Let me see what disturbs them. Why are they acting as an aggressor? Why are they driven to behave in this way? And when we do, when we approach the question with this wisdom, we'll see that they are suffering. They are in pain. They are struggling with one thing or another. And so rather than feeling angry, we can feel pity, at least at one level. At a lower level, we might feel pity. Pity is not as elevated as compassion. Compassion is where pity can come with a sense of superiority. Oh, I pity you. Compassion is where I want to help you. I want good for you. And so it is possible to purify these urges, these lower urges of anger, greed, lust, through rising to the platform of sattva. This would generally be with wisdom and with knowledge. Wisdom is knowledge, and with detachment or practice. We have to control ourselves, controlling the senses with wisdom, and then we can create different responses or different reactions. Rather than reacting, we can respond. Rather than being triggered, we can take a breath and have some discipline and then reflect with wisdom. How can I best help this situation? How can I best understand this person and best serve them in their need, in their struggle? They're crying out with this aggression. So that's a more elevated response. that we can learn to cultivate. At the higher level, I said we can do this through wisdom and self-discipline. The higher level of purification, or let's say even faster, is through chanting the holy name. Through hearing, chanting, remembering, glorifying Krishna, through awakening of bhakti in our heart, then knowledge, and that is jnana, and vairagya, detachment, they come as natural effects. So as you become a Vaishnava, as you become more and more dedicated to Krishna, then naturally you will become more wise and you will become more detached from the material nature, and you will not be driven to respond with anger or desire for revenge towards an aggressor. Rather, you will see that aggressor with compassion and want to understand how best to help them. Thank you, Viren. Kirtidat with us says, beautiful answer. Thank you, Kirtidat, for your appreciation. Janavamata says, replying to Jana, oh yeah. So many times in my life, he's tried to enlighten and protect me, but sadly, not hearing him, I have paid the price. But he's so kind that even when we blow it, he always makes good of our stupidity. That's my experience. I want to listen more carefully. Thank you for that, Janavamata. So Janavamata is speaking there, I would say, about Paramatma, or Krishna in the heart, who's present and giving wisdom, giving guidance, but we're not always listening. In our conditioned state, it's difficult for us to even hear. And so we're not hearing and we pay the price. And so that is our pitiable condition. As we become more purified, then we are also better able to hear the voice of Paramatma in the heart, the voice of Chaitya Guru. And as long as we are unable, but sincere and humble, then we can hear that voice of Paramatma through the agency of Gurudev, the spiritual master. So Chaitya Guru manifests as Pradakshika Guru, manifests as Shiksha Guru, manifests as Diksha Guru, and manifests as the Sangha of Vaishnavas, as the community of devotees. And in their association and under their guidance, we practice bhakti, we become more and more purified, and then we're better able to hear the guidance of Chaitya Guru, which never contradicts the guidance of the external manifestations of Guru either. If we are getting some inner guidance that contradicts with Guru Saru Shastra, then we'll say, no, that's not Chaitya Guru. That's our mind in the guise, wanting to take the guise of Chaitya Guru. And that way we have checks and balances. So Kirti Das just clarified that appreciation was the answer to Janavamata's question. Thank you. Janavamata asks, can Kshatriyas act from revenge on Krishna? Is it acceptable? So the Kshatriya has a duty to protect society, to protect those under their charge. And so that's the place that they need to act from. If someone is doing harm, if someone is an aggressor, and they are offensive to the holy name, they're offensive to the Lord, and they are harming others through their offensiveness, the Kshatriya's duty is to intervene. Parikshit Maharaj, he had to intervene in relation to Kali in the guise of a king who was causing harm to Dharma and Dharani, to the earth and to religion personified. So that is the Kshatriya's responsibility. It may look like revenge and they may draw on the forces or the power of passion, Rajagun, because that is the nature of that role. It requires some passion, some aggression, some strength, some anger as well. But when it is channeled with a sense of duty, a sense of dharma, then it is purified. So, yes, revenge, but not just reactionary, ignorant revenge that is destructive. This is a righteous anger that is based on the principle of protecting those under one's care or shelter, and guided by Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and a sense of, I think I mentioned, a sense of duty. So that channeling of that rajasic energy is purifying for the kshatriya, and it is their pathway. So kshatriya, it means any one of us who has that inclination. We can channel that energy by taking responsibility for others and then protecting others in that way. But the revenge should not be in the spirit. So the drive needs to be protection. If it's about pure retribution and causing harm and suffering and pain to the other, that's not the right attitude. Pariksha didn't want to cause pain and suffering to Kali. He wanted to protect Dharma and Dharani. That needs to be the attitude here. Not I will cause you pain, but I will protect those under my charge. And if that requires that I have to stand with weapons and fight, then so be it. Not the and as a consequence, there will be pain. So it's about what our motivations are and priorities in acting. Otherwise, the general guidance for the Vaishnava, because Vaishnavism is practiced in the mode of goodness, even though our Varna might be as Sudra or Vaishya or Kshatriya, the practice of Vaishnavism, the culture of Vaishnavism is Sudasattva, it is pure goodness. And so the lifestyle is Brahminical culture. That means we maintain purity, rising early, taking bath, doing sadhana, chanting japa, serving the needy, eating prasadam, vegetarian food that has been cooked and offered to Krishna and taken as mercy. The Vaishnava culture is Brahminical culture, though our Varna might be any of the four Varnas. So we try to create the sattvic disposition that is, at least in terms of our personal dealings and lifestyle. In the job or our role, we might be associated with those other energies because that is our role, and we undertake that with a sense of duty as well and in service. Great questions. Thank you very much. Okay, so Gentleman Butters expressing appreciation to Viren's question. Viren says thank you, and Kirtina sending flowers and gratitude. Thank you also very much for this opportunity to share with you. It's an honor to explore and discuss Srimad Bhagavatam in your association. May you deepen your appreciation for hearing and chanting and remembering and glorifying Krishna through the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. May you deepen your understanding of the Srimad Bhagavatam and its structure and development and its key teachings and lessons and insights, which is the focus of these weekly talks. May you deepen your appreciation for chanting the holy name attentively. May you deepen your love for serving Krishna in the form of Sri Vigraha, the deity. May you deepen your appreciation for serving in the place where Krishna resides. That is the sacred dhams of Mayapur, Sri Vrindavan Dham, or any temple where the deity is served. And may you deepen your love and appreciation of Vaishnavas and take every opportunity to serve, to associate, to love Vaishnavas. And through these practices, may your heart soften and move you to share the treasures of bhakti with others as well. Grantaran Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari